faced a legitimately tough challenge on Saturday the 10th of March when they made the long journey to the heart of Essex to face 5th placed Heybridge Swifts. Indeed, in forward Simon Parker and particularly Chris Lee, Heybridge had two players who were much coveted by nationwide league clubs, and they were bound to give Farnborough's defence something to think about for a change. With midfielder Scott Corbett unavailable and forward Steve Darlington now out for the rest of the season, Farnborough were also not at full strength for this game, but presumably the reason for bringing defender Tim O'Shea into the starting lineup for the first time in 11 league matches was so that they could field an identical 3-5-2 formation to Heybridge rather than trying to go for a draw, as Mickey Warner and Justin Gregory were good attacking players anyway and wouldn't just sit back and defend all match. Heybridge, though, had only lost once in their last 8 league and cup matches, and that was because they fielded a reserve side. So the first 20 minutes or so of this match were predictably tight, until Ian Baird suddenly showed a bit of quality for Farnborough to force Heybridge keeper Kingsley Banks into a good save with his legs. Despite being 36 now, Baird was still looking sharp and no doubt keen to claim a regular place in the starting lineup for the remainder of the season, with Steve Darlington out injured, and he did his cause no harm at all in the 31st minute when he gave Farnborough the lead after once again wrong-footing defender Mark Keane, but this time finishing emphatically despite the bobbly pitch, which may even have helped him beat keeper Banks. It was a good start to the match for Farnborough then, and indeed it wasn't until the 34th minute that Heybridge showed what they were capable of, as skipper Gary Waters made a clever run to get on the end of Chris Payne's corner, but Farnborough keeper Stuart Mackenzie anticipated well and made the save look easy. Of course, one of the problems of filming at non-league grounds is that they don't all have a purpose-built unobstructed vantage point like the one on the stand roof at Farnborough, and at Heybridge we had to put up with a view from ground level and with numerous pillars in the way. Unfortunately then, Mickey Warner decided to score arguably the most spectacular goal ever seen by a Farnborough player at just such a ground, when in the 38th minute he latched onto a defensive header with a volley that flew into the net so fast that it would have sent the needle for Andy Gray's timing device for miles per hour off the scale had it been used to record it. Unfortunately though, we are not Sky Sports and can't afford to have cameras dotted all around the ground, and when Gary Waters got so much height and distance on his header it disappeared out of view above the stand roof from our position, and the next we saw of the ball it was lying in the back of the net. Nevertheless, it was still a moment to savour, and it was a topic of conversation amongst Farnborough supporters for several weeks afterwards, and certainly won't be forgotten. Although that put Farnborough 2-0 up, Heybridge couldn't be written off just yet, and one half of their highly rated strike force gave Farnborough a warning in the 39th minute as Simon Parker struck a shot which flashed just wide from the edge of the area, with keeper Mackenzie beaten. 2-0 was how it stayed until half-time though, but Farnborough managed to make a good start to the second half as well, when Lenny Piper forced keeper Kingsley Banks into an unorthodox save just 3 minutes after the break. In fact, Banks then had to make another good save in the 51st minute to stop a shot from Gary Crawshaw after another swift move, and it was looking as if Farnborough had certainly gone up a gear and raised themselves for this match. However, a spate of substitutions midway through the half may have seen them lose their concentration a bit in the 69th minute, when Heybridge midfielder John Pollard was left unmarked following a corner, but he headed well over the bar when he really should have hit the target. With Heybridge throwing men forward though, Farnborough were looking really dangerous on the break, and Gary Crawshaw found more space in the 74th minute from substitute Chris Piper's through ball to test keeper Banks again, but the pitch was so heavy it was difficult to get enough power into shots of that nature. However, skipper Steve Watson was able to have more of a run-up onto Piper's pass a minute later, and that saw Farnborough go 3-0 up, although it was some very slack defending by Heybridge substitute Colin Wall in the first place that allowed Gary Crawshaw to win possession. After that, Heybridge now needed something special from their strike force if they wanted to get back into the game, and they certainly got that in the 79th minute when Chris Lee smashed in a fierce volley, which Stuart Mackenzie did well to get a hand to in the Farnborough goal. That made it 3-1, and Heybridge then made it a nervous last few minutes for Farnborough by pulling another goal back in the 84th minute after Farnborough substitute Tony Taggart gave the ball straight to Heybridge midfielder John Pollard, resulting in a move which culminated in Simon Parker tapping in the rebound after Stuart Mackenzie had initially made a good save to deny substitute Terry Warwick. However, Farnborough pulled themselves together for the last 6 minutes to complete a 3-2 victory without any further scares, and it avenged the 1-0 defeat that Heybridge inflicted on them back at the Amateur Stadium earlier on in the season. Indeed, with this result making it 12 league wins in a row for Farnborough and putting them 16 points clear at the top of the table, most teams in the division had now more or less conceded that nobody would catch them now, even with 11 matches still to go.